This Monday, December 9th, NBA Betting Picks edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code NBA SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rebet, a new sports book available in 45 states. Download Rebet in your app store and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Monday, November. I don't know why I keep saying November. December the 9th. One whole game on the NBA schedule here tonight for Monday. But I figured, hey, this is a good time for us to get into some more NBA Cup talk. We got the quarterfinals coming up starting on, I believe it's Tuesday or Wednesday. And then we'll find out which teams are headed to Sin City for the semifinals and the finals of the NBA Cup, of course. We'll talk about all that. We'll recap some of the action we saw over the weekend. Of course, handicap the one game that we do have on the NBA schedule tonight. But joining me, of course, here to help me break everything down happening on the hardwood, I know him as the voice of the NBA Gambling Podcast, the MLB Gambling Podcast, the Tennis Gambling Podcast, WNBA, Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Yeah, doing pretty well. I had a solid week on the show, so can't complain. I believe I swept the last episode that I was on, which is nice. Besides that, though, pretty entertaining weekend for the NBA. I would say that there were a couple of monster performances that we'll talk about in a second, but once again, with the quarterfinals coming up next, it is pretty weird to have one game on the card, but it is what it is, and we move on. We got one game today, 2 games tomorrow. So, yeah, it's kind of just, I don't know. Let's just say there's a lot of dead air in the NBA. So
it's like that, yeah, this entirety of the week up until, so Wednesday only has 2 games as well. Thursday has only 3 games. And then Friday we'll have about, I think it's like 7 or 8 games. And then we'll find out Saturday. Saturday will be the day we'll see the semifinals for the NBA Cup. So I think that going forward, as long as this NBA Cup is around, we'll probably expect this or for it to at least be like this, at least this week when we're trying to figure out, teams that will be going to Vegas and semifinals and finals for the NBA Cup. So that might be a good week for us to kind of give our thoughts generally about what's happened on the season throughout this week. But we'll talk about the NBA Cup in the futures here for the 8 teams that are in the quarterfinals right now. Before we get to all that good stuff, let me just quickly remind everybody about the SGPN app. You can download it, whether it's in your app store or the Google Play Store. It's completely free. And the great part about it, guys, is that you get access to all of our pods across the network and all of our pick pages as well. So it's free wherever you do get your apps. Just make sure you guys download the SGPN app. Again, completely free to download. All right, Scott, let's recap the weekend, and then I think we can knock out the game early, and then we'll get into the NBA Cup stuff. So if people want to listen through, they can with the NBA Cup futures. And if they're just here for the game, they're just here for the game on Monday. But we'll recap here what we saw over the weekend. Pretty eventful weekend with the amount of games that we did have. Some outstanding performances individually, led by, of course, the front runner for MVP right now. I guess we can start there. Nikola Jokic casually drops 104 points in the 2 games over the weekend. Unfortunately for the Denver Nuggets, they go 1-1 in those games. They did drop the game to the Washington Wizards on Saturday night, losing that game 122-113. Career high for Mr. Nikola Jokic. 56 points in that game to go along with, I believe he had also 14 rebounds in that game as well. 16 rebounds. I'm sorry. I don't want to take anything away from him. And also chipped in with 8 assists. All of that, unfortunately, was in a losing effort. And then they come back on Sunday without Jamal Murray in the lineup. And Nikola Jokic drops 48 in that game. But fortunately, they do get the victory there in blowout fashion, 141-111 in favor of the Denver Nuggets. So I thought that was a good starting point here. Scott, for the weekend action about Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, I mean, Joker's a monster. I understand that in previous years, record kind of matters in the MVP vote, but if you're actually just watching the games, he's the best player in the league by a mile. Like I don't think it's close compared to
Yeah.
anybody. And he was able to dominate against Atlanta. Yes, I know Jalen Johnson didn't play. He scored 140 points. He had like 41 points in 3 quarters. The Wizards' loss is a joke.
Yeah.
And I got to bring it up because the Wizards had lost, I believe it was 16 straight at that point. This team's still not very good. And
No.
the fact that Denver, I know that Murray has been underwhelming. I know Gordon has been injured as well. So they were a bit shorthanded in that Wizards game, but still. The point is that the fact that this team is 2 games over 500 right now is a testament to how good Joker actually is. Because Denver, when you watch them play, every time Joker goes to the bench, they get their asses kicked. Every time. The on-off numbers are insane. And you're looking at Denver supporting cast either being injured or not very good, or both for Jamal Murray's case. So Denver's got to try something. I mean, I feel like we see this in a lot of different sports where you see a lot of generational talents or a lot of elite athletes, and the front office just wastes their prime and doesn't really do anything to maximize their chances of actually winning a ring.
Yeah.
This team's not good enough to do anything. Even with Joker going Superman for most of these games, it doesn't really matter. They're 12-10, and they lost to the Wizards, who were the worst team by a mile, when Joker dropped a career high in points. This team needs to, I don't want to say blow it up, but they have to drastically retool. And I'm not going to overreact to beating the Hawks. Congratulations, a nice win. Once again, Jalen Johnson didn't play, so I got to factor that in. But the Nuggets, despite Joker having these insane performances, once again showcased why I don't take them seriously in the Western Conference, because I think that they might be a play-in team. They're not that good. And when you're looking at what teams need to do and which teams need to be aggressive, when the trade deadline approaches, you have, for example, Indiana, who's in free fall. They lost to the Hornets yesterday. TJ McConnell dropped 30 points and you still lost to the Hornets with no LaMelo. It's pretty tough to do. Point is, though, Indiana might blow it up. We'll see what they're going to do. The Nuggets have to acquire more talent. It would not shock me if there was a trade between the two of them. Do you trade for Mathurin? Do you trade for somebody? Like, I feel like there are a couple of guys in Indiana, just for example, that could actually help provide some scoring punch or maybe even some just overall, I'd say, talent on this roster. And Denver is going to have to make some moves. And now Westbrook has actually been a solid addition. It looked disastrous for the first 2 weeks. And since then, he's been very good. But when you're going on the line here, I think Brown's been fine. Porter Jr. still can't really create his own shot. He's mostly going to come around screens and shoot threes all the time. Murray's lost a step or two. He's not the guy that he used to be. It is what it is. And you're just going down the line. Their roster's pretty meh or even below average when you take out the actual starters. Their bench unit's atrocious. Like, they need to get some guys. So my main thing I'll start with Denver, because Joker's performance I have to at least mention over those 2 games. They got to make a move or two. And if not, you got to fire the front office, because I don't really know what you're waiting for. You're wasting a potential top 10 player of all time's prime, and you can't let that happen.
Yeah, and I think the conversation starts with Jamal Murray, that he has taken a step back for this Denver Nuggets team, whether it's injury related or whatever the case might be. But I think it's more so that it's not that he's not talented. I mean, we've seen what this guy can do, and he's firing on all cylinders. And I think health right now is the biggest thing with Jamal Murray. I think the knee's something that's really bothering him. The aggressiveness that we usually see from Jamal Murray has been inconsistent. I'm trying to find his shooting numbers here for Jamal Murray. So he's shooting
very good.
42% from the floor. That's not going to get it done. We're supposed to be the second best player on this team, only shooting at 33% from beyond the arc. And I think it's what we talked about when they did win the title a few seasons ago. The bench was what was, I guess, the advantage for this Denver Nuggets team, because they had Bruce Brown.
You had Caldwell Pope in there. Like, you had some guys. Pope might have started at that point, but you get my point. They had a lot of guys that could easily flow in and out of games. You could change the closing lineups if you wanted to, depending on the matchup itself. But Bruce Brown could be a guy Denver tries to get back. I mean, he's sitting on Toronto. I don't know if he's actually played any games this season, but the point is, Denver's got to try something. In reality, they're probably screwed anyway. Yeah. You're paying Jamal Murray and Porter Jr. that much money. And Porter's been fine. I'm not going to roast Porter too much, but they paid a lot for a 3-point shooter who's not a great defender. who doesn't really create much off the dribble. So he's I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but you get my point.
Right.
Murray, though, was the guy after the Lakers series in the Western Conference Finals who was just unconscious from the floor. And then you figure, okay, you know, we can build something with this duo, and we have the exact guard-center combo that we need to win multiple titles. You don't. Like, Murray was the guy who's had some playoff moments. He had that crazy series against Donovan Mitchell in the bubble a couple years ago, which was insane. Yeah. Then he had the series against the Lakers. Then even last year against the Lakers, he wasn't really that great, but he had a game-winning shot at the buzzer, and he had some clutch moments in the closeout game. Besides that, though, he's just not that guy anymore. It is what it is. You kind of need to have, especially for an elite pick-and-roll game, you need a point guard that can take advantage of a step if he's given one. When you're talking about blowing past defenders, trying to find out, who's going to be open, trying to kind of manipulate coverages. Jamal just can't do that anymore. He just can't blow past guys. And if you're going to be settling for a bunch of contested jumpers as the second best option on a team, it's not going to help you in the long term. And we've seen Murray struggle to actually attack the paint. You've seen them once again look a little bit out of sorts defensively at times because Murray can't really guard much anymore. It's a problem. So I'm not saying that one trade's going to completely just save their season, but they got to do some serious roster overhaul. And it starts with at least showing some sign of a pulse from the front office that you're willing to at least to move some chairs around. You got to try something.
I think it's going to come to a decision where they're going to have to trade either one of Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr.
I don't know what Murray's even worth at this point.
I mean, I think there's some team out there that will. I think if you added him to a roster like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, I mean, maybe the Lakers. Obviously the salaries have to match up, but he does have to go into that type of team and be required to be the number 2 guy. You still have Anthony Davis as your number 1, LeBron, 2, and then Jamal Murray. Like you mentioned, he just absolutely kills the Lakers every time they play him. A team like that, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I think that's where, at this juncture, with what he's not able to do anymore, what he was able to do, 5 years ago in the bubble. Like you mentioned, he's just not the same player anymore. So
that's not even what I meant.
And I
didn't even mean by skill set, by the way. He signed a 4-year extension worth $200+ million about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
3 months ago.
On the front office,
and he's already, I'm saying he's already, I don't want to say cooked, but he's definitely not the guy he used to be. Yeah. He has 4 years left.
Yeah.
For $50+ million basically in each year. He's getting paid around 46 this year, 50 next year, 53 in 27-28, and about 57 in 28-29. I don't know who would want him. Once again, it's nothing against Jamal Murray in terms of what he's done for this organization. But you're talking about his current status as a player. He's not an all-star caliber player. It is what it is. And you're paying him for 4 years, $50+ million. Like, I don't know what team would be willing to trade for that. It's kind of like what I talked about for the Suns with Bradley Beal. Why would you want to trade for him if he's going to be, I'd say, injured all the time, and you got to wonder about the overall amount, especially with the new CBA, of how much money you're tied up to a non-all-star player. Jamal Murray and the Nuggets are kind of stuck because they showed loyalty, and I think it screwed him over because I don't know what you're supposed to do with Murray. I don't think you can trade him.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Again, that's on the front office for paying him all that money. Kudos to his agent.
His agent did a good job, and he got
a
ring out of it. But if you were going to tell me he signed an extension 2 years ago, and you have 2 years left, maybe.
Yeah.
But 4 years, he signed it 2-3 months ago. I don't think you can trade Murray.
Yeah,
Porter Jr. maybe. Murray, I don't think he could actually move.
Yeah, I think that Michael Porter Jr. is probably the guy that's going to be an odd man out because, like you mentioned, he's only a spot-up 3-point shooter or a guy that just jacks up a 3-point shot. So we'll see what transpires for this Denver Nuggets team. Anything else from the weekend, Scott, that you want to mention? I just want to quickly go back. I was looking at the box score back for Jokic, and I noticed that Jordan Poole jacked up 23s in that game.
Yep. He did. Poole was so good in that game, by the way.
He dropped 39 in that game.
What do you have, like 9 threes? He was great.
Yeah, 9
in
of
that
20.
Game.
Yeah.
I see a comment, by the way, about either paying him or letting him walk, and he's played injured now. And I get what you're saying, but there's honestly with the whole CBA thing, teams have to be more comfortable either trading away star players or actually letting them walk.
Yeah.
Because in the current format with the CBA and how you have the apron system and how you're really disincentivized to actually get into the luxury tax, you can't afford even like a half a misstep on a
Yeah.
potential like expensive player. You can't afford it. And if Murray has even an inkling of doubt, or you have an inkling of doubt about his overall abilities moving forward, you kind of have to let him walk. I know it's going to sound like crazy, and you're going to say, well, that shows that there's no loyalty in sports. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. At this point, your goal is to win championships, and your goal is to try to do whatever you can for the better of the franchise to actually just get the job done. And if you think that Murray, who we saw last year, was already starting to deteriorate, then you saw the Olympics. He was atrocious in the Olympics for Team Canada. And Denver saw that and said, yeah, we're going to pay you 5 years anyway. We're going to pay you, or 4 years anyway, for like $200 million. I just feel like at some point the writing was on the wall and they should have seen it, but they said, you know what? He's been good to us. We want a title. We'll pay him. But with the current system, you really cannot afford a single misstep. And Denver decided to show loyalty, and now they're screwed.
Yeah, so I mean, again, we'll see what transpires for this team. Jokic making 51. I was trying to see it I was trying to get on the trade machine here quickly before see if I can come up with a trade for Jamal Murray, but there's a restriction on him that expires March 10, 2025 before you can trade him. So maybe we'll mess with that later in the season where it's another slow week. All right, Scott, before we do get into the game here for tonight and then some NBA Cup futures, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus in all of sports. You can win up to 1,000x with Underdog streaks. And Underdog is always making it easier to win with profit boosts and gimme picks. NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and much more. And you can now also use specials and boosts on all flex entries. So sign up with promo code NBA SGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code NBA SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rebet. Rebet is a new social sports book available in 45 states. There are plenty of betting opportunities that are available on Rebet. Easy to use and great for people in states where traditional sports book may be restricted. Download Rebet in the App Store and use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. Again, that's Rebet. Make sure you use that promo code SGPN. All right, let's get into the game here for tonight, and then we'll get into some NBA Cup futures talk.
I was going to ask you quickly.
Yeah,
sorry, we spent a lot of time on Denver. Did you want to touch on any of the other games this past weekend, or just
no? I think that was the biggest storyline from this weekend was obviously Nikola Jokic and the way that he ended up dominating over the weekend.
I kind of just hijacked the actual conversation. That's why I was wondering if you want to talk about it.
I mean, other than that, it was pretty. I don't want to get into the Pelicans. I feel like that's just beating on a dead horse. That team is pretty much done. They're gonna have to blow it up pretty soon rather than later. No, I didn't really have much else. That was the weekend gets kind of tricky because you always have these guys that are sitting in or playing or sitting out the following day. I think
I'll add one game I'll talk about quickly.
Sure.
Not going to spend too much time on it because I know we want to get to the game. Shout out to the Celtics. Nice win against Milwaukee. Got dicey. Milwaukee was just brutal offensively in the last couple of minutes of that game, but nice win there on Friday night. Celtics got the job done. Nice win by Houston yesterday. So nice job by them. But yeah, nice win by Golden State too, who avenged the loss to Minnesota from Friday. So that's basically all I wanted to add.
Yeah, I think that Minnesota's another team I could probably spend another 15, 20 minutes talking about.
They've been better lately. I'll give them that, even though they lost yesterday. Props to Steve Kerr for actually changing up the starting lineup, though. He used Hield instead of Podziemski, and they gave him a bit more punch. So it worked out, but I don't know if I'm a fan of Draymond doing the sleeping celebration. I can't know if celebration should be for one entire team,
leave that
one
for Curry.
player.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like that should be a Curry only celebration, but I mean Draymond dunked, and he hates Rudy Gobert, so it was a double win for him. But yeah, either way, nice win for Golden State.
Unfortunately, the under on chokeholds cashed this weekend. If you were betting on Draymond to choke out Rudy Gobert again. So maybe lesson learned for Draymond from one transfer. I think it was last season. All right, Scott, let's get to the standalone game here for tonight. Pretty good matchup, I guess, if you are into storylines and things like that. But the New York Knicks, they're in Canada to take on the Raptors. Knicks are laying 6 points in this game with a total of 232 in this matchup. Injury report, I'll start here with the New York Knicks. Campaign is questionable, and so is Cat. both guys questionable. And then for the Toronto Raptors, the usual guys are out: Bruce Brown and Emmanuel Quickly. Obviously, these two teams made a trade last season involving OG Anunoby heading over to the New York Knicks. RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, some fillers. Precious Achiuwa also going over to the New York Knicks as well. But these two teams now matching up here in Toronto tonight. What are your thoughts on the side here, Scott?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Knicks in this one. They're off a loss. I thought Detroit played a great game in general. The Knicks trailed the entire game. 0 leads at home there. Cat had a triple-double, I think, with 15 assists. Cat wasn't playing, but at the end of the day, I don't know if it actually mattered. Seemed like the team kind of no-showed, and it seemed like the Knicks were, I don't want to say looking ahead to anything, because Toronto's definitely not a look-ahead game, but they just seemed out of sorts defensively, or disinterested, however you want to phrase it. But the point is they had won 4 in a row. In fact, they'd won 3 straight by 15-plus points, and they eventually just no-showed the home game against Detroit. Is what it is. Point is, though, Brunson still with 31. Kate, I said before, was great, but it just seemed like without Cat, they were out of sorts. The leading rebounder on the team was Josh Hart in the starting lineup, but Chua had 10 off the bench, and one of his first games of the season. But without Cat, they didn't really do much offensively. Jericho Sims played a grand total of 6 minutes, so congrats to Jericho Sims. Point is, though, Cat might be back in the lineup here, which is going to be important because I think that Pirtle and Barnes can dominate the boards if you're going to end up seeing him sit this game. I think Cat's going to play. We'll see. But I think the Knicks come out with more effort and more focus. Toronto's been better lately, though, because Scotty Barnes, good basketball player. I know people kind of mock the contract extension they gave him about a year ago, but guy can play. I'll put it that way. Is he worth the money? I don't know, but he's a really good basketball player. So the point is they've been a bit more competitive. They're not good. They're 7-17. I'm sure they'll get even worse as the season goes on. They've given up a bunch of points lately. They can't guard anybody. Lost to Dallas in their last home game. Gave up 125 there. You're looking at Dick, who had 27 points on 5 threes. Barrett at 18 points. Pirtle at 20 points. And Scotty Barnes had 19, 8, and 14. Besides Barnes, though, I don't know how many guys really scare me on this team. Barrett's had a good year. He's kind of cooled down a bit, but I do think that he's had a pretty solid sign of growth with the bigger usage, especially with Quickly being out. He's having a very good year in general, 23-plus points per game. But I think for this one, I'm going to go with the Knicks. If they had won against Detroit, maybe I'd make an argument, but off a loss, the Knicks are the better team, and they should be more focused. I'm not sure Toronto gets enough stops. Give me the Knicks, -6.
Yeah, I like the. I'll get to the total in a second here. I know I do love.
I go with the over.
My favorite bet in this game. I would look at the Raptors in the home spot here. The Knicks. I've talked about this throughout the season. Like the potential of this team being a good defensive team hasn't lived up to quite the expectation just
They've
quite
had moments,
yet.
But it's been infrequent.
Yeah, and it's really been at home as for them as well, right? You take a look on the road, their defensive rating is the rank number 24, which is bottom 7 at that point, and then it slightly improves when they're at home for the New York Knicks. So I think this, again, being at home here for the Toronto Raptors, where they are 6-6 straight up, but they are 9-3 against the number, and obviously they've been a underdog, I believe, in all 12 of their home games thus far.
6-6 is pretty good when you're 7-17 overall.
Yeah, that means that you're 1-11 on the road thus far this season. So, I like the Raptors in this spot. I think RJ, if you look at RJ splits at home and road, it's really mind-boggling. I think he's averaging 27 points per game at home. So he's mentioned this as well, right? In some of these post-game interviews that he loves playing back at home in Toronto, where he's very comfortable. It's getting Scotty Barnes back, like you mentioned. He's just been an absolute animal, whether it's been scoring the basketball, rebounding the basketball, getting the assist there as well. I mean, he's filling up the PRA stat sheet. They also got Grady Dick back. I know he missed a couple games there for him as well. He's trying to come around as far as shooting the basketball and just contributing for this team. So I think it's a good spot here. I think this comes down to the wire here. I think so I like the +6 here, but I think going to the total, that's my more favorite play in this game. I think this number opened up around 230.5. I like the over in this game. Like you mentioned, I know the stops aren't going to be there for the Toronto Raptors, so I know that they're going to do their part of scoring. And the New York Knicks as well, like I mentioned, they're defensively at least, that there's a significant fall off from what they do at Madison Square Garden and what they do at home. So I like the over in this spot here. I'll try to pull up some more numbers for the total here, but do you have any thoughts for the total?
Yeah, it'll be over. I think at the end of the day, the Knicks defensively aren't consistent enough, but offensively, they're definitely a very solid team. As for Toronto, they've been more entertaining. They've been able to score recently, but they can't defend.
Yeah.
Toronto's last couple games they've lost. They gave up 125 to Dallas, gave up 129 to Oklahoma City. In the game that they won against the Pacers, that game still landed 233. Game against the Heat, they played a back-to-back there, ended up landing 235 and 232. So a lot of high-scoring games for Toronto. I see another one here. I don't know who's going to guard Brunson on this Toronto team. I think that you're looking at the Raptors having a couple of decent scoring options, though, the Knicks might struggle with. So I like the over in this game, too. Knicks team total over for me. I think they could get into the 120s. So that's where I'm at for this one, but it would be over or nothing.
Yeah, the Knicks and their road games 8-4 towards the over. Toronto also 8-4 towards the over in their home games there as well. So I do expect to see points put up in this game here. We could touch on player props here since we only have one game here, but obviously everybody's still going to be talking about the RJ Barrett revenge angle, PRA, whatever the case might be. I'm going to pull up his home and road splits here quickly, but any thoughts on player props looking at in this game here, Scott?
Well, let's assume that Cat plays for the sake of argument, because that's going to play a big factor in some of the props.
Yeah.
I like Brunson's overall spot here.
Right.
I think if you want to go for Brunson points, if you want to go for Brunson PA, you have options, but his points were 25.5. He's had at least 26 in back-to-back games against Toronto, at 38 against them last year in one of the meetings. So I think it's a good matchup there. He's had at least 8 assists in 3 of the last 4 games against Toronto. One exception, he ended up having 7 on 17 potential last game. So Brunson double-double could be there for this game if you want to go for the 10 assists. Plus 260. I like the price on that. I think that once again, you can't have a solid option of at least for scoring or for passing in this game if you think the Knicks are going to be able to score a bunch of points. So I like Brunson to have a solid game. I don't mind double-double. I'll go with PA to be safe about it, but I think he should have a good game. Barnes, I think, has to have a good game because his usage is just incredible. If you want to go for his RA, that's been a pretty solid option for the last couple of weeks. His double-double is only minus 118 on Caesars, which I think is a pretty good price, but he's been a pretty decent three-point shooter lately. He has made at least 2 threes in 7 straight games. His line's 1.5. It is minus 150, though, but he has been attempting a lot of threes recently. But if you want to go through his RA just for reference here, it's at 16.5. He's had at least 19 in 6 of his last 7 games. Like, he's been an absolute monster. I'll go with Scotty Barnes RA in this game. Double-double, though, minus 118, I think is pretty appealing, too.
Yeah, like you mentioned, he's just been an absolute monster since he returned from injury for the Toronto Raptors. Talking about RJ Barrett's home and road splits thus far this season. On the road this season, 11 games, shooting it 39% from the floor, 30% from 3, averaging 19.4 points per game, 6 rebounds and 6.5 assists. In Toronto, in 10 games, he's shooting at 52% from the floor, 39% from beyond the arc, and he's averaging 27.7 points per game at home, 7.2 rebounds, and 5.3 assists. So nothing really stood out as far as the lone matchup they had against each other last season. So I don't know if you want to talk about the revenge angle or not. But I do think that this is obviously the 2 guys that are going to drive this offense, like you mentioned, is going to be Scotty Barnes and, of course, RJ Barrett as well. So I agree about Barnes in this game for sure. If you want to look at points for RJ Barrett, that might be worth a look. It is at 21.5 right now for him. So if we do expect to see points being put up in this game, I think they'll be led by Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. Barnes at 20.5, RJ Barrett at 21.5. So I do like that angle. Again, we'll keep our eye out for Cat in this game. If he does end up playing, I do like his rebounding prop. He's just been an absolute monster rebounding the basketball this season for the New York Knicks. So keep that in mind. If he doesn't play, maybe a Josh Hart rebounding prop.
If he doesn't play, I actually like a chew off the bench.
Oh, yeah, he did also return for the
He played 2 games, played 12 minutes against the Hornets, and then he played 28 against the Pistons. He had 10 rebounds. So, of course, if Cat plays, he'll get less minutes, but that's also a revenge game, quote-unquote. So I think Chu is in a pretty good spot if you want to talk about a guy who could capitalize on Cat sitting out again.
Any other props you like?
Not really. Once again, Cat, I think, should have a solid game. We keep talking about how bad his rim protection is. Does that result in maybe going with a Pirtle play?
Um,
Just throwing out the idea there.
yeah, possibly. I know he's had moments this season where Jakob Hurtl's actually been pretty good scoring the basketball.
Yeah.
I know he missed, I think it was the last game, that was game prior to that, but
He's
he's
had
not
it.
on it.
He's had at
But
least 17 points in 4 straight. His line's at 15.5. So if you want to actually
yeah.
consider that, that could be an option. If you think he's
Hmm.
going to have to rebound, because obviously Toronto's going to have to try to fight with Cat on the boards. You can get the double-double at a pretty affordable price. Double-double for this one is around, minus 130. If you want
Okay.
to go for PR, that's at 26.5. He's gone over in 8 of the last 10 games. I think Pirtle could have a decent matchup if you are that skeptical of Cat's rim protection.
I think the only part that makes me nervous about Jakob Hurtl is that he's prone to get into foul trouble,
Yeah.
which may be limiting his minutes a little bit. But I mean, he's still playing 34, 36, 37,
He's been good.
32. Yeah, he's been pretty good for this team. So I honestly really couldn't talk you off of that for him here tonight. All right, Scott, before this, we get into some NBA Cup talk here, let me just remind everybody about our good old friends over at mybookie.ag. We're brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie has been around SGPN for years. Check out their new and improved website. It's great on mobile, plus props for every game and the live dealer casino. They even have new early cash out options available. Head to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip they'll throw in for you as well. That's mybookie.ag. Make sure you use our promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered back sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models, or have Rhythm build a model for you. And now you can track props in the Rhythm app, NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, and NBA. Rhythm, honestly, they have it all. Looking at tonight's props for the game and what Rhythm does like in this matchup. Let's see here. They like they already got projections out for tomorrow, but as far as tonight, they do like Scotty Barnes under on his assists, 7.5 at plus money. So they're projecting he only has 4 assists here tonight. So get over there, Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, let's get into some NBA Cup talk here. 8 teams left now for the NBA Cup, and I'm pulling up the bracket as we speak here. So the games will be on, I believe it's on Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. So we'll have one matchup from the Eastern Conference and one from the Western Conference here. And as we pull up the bracket here. All right. So in the Western Conference, the 4 teams that are remaining will be the Oklahoma City Thunder, who will match up against the Dallas Mavericks in the 1-4 matchup. And then you have the Houston Rockets against the Golden State Warriors on Wednesday. So I'm sorry, the 2 Cup games will be tomorrow and then on Wednesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday, we have Cup games to find out who heads to Vegas. And looking at the updated odds right now for the NBA Cup, I believe the last team that I did see that was favored to win the NBA Cup was
It's the Knicks.
the Knicks here. And then they're followed by, here we go, Milwaukee at plus 360, OKC plus 370, Rockets plus 550, Golden State plus 850, Mavs 9-1. Hawks 25-1, and unfortunately for the Orlando Magic, we didn't even touch on the injury there that they lose Franz Wagner for the foreseeable future. The same injury that Paulo Banchero suffered, unfortunately. So they're missing their top 2 guys there. But those are the
By the way, the Cup schedule starts tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. So we have the 2 games tomorrow between the Thunder and the Mavericks, and then we have the Orlando Magic against the Milwaukee Bucks. So, Scott, looking at the odds right now for the future, futures, I should say, on who you like to win the NBA Cup at the current odds. Who's winning the second banner this season?
So it would be pretty funny if Golden State pulled it off after the Lakers won it the first time, and you just get LeBron and Curry winning this in-season tournament for a banner optional. Let's put it that way, but it would be pretty funny. For the actual, I'd say, bracket itself, I like Milwaukee's draw.
Yeah.
I know that Middleton came back. He played a bit against the Celtics. They gave it a run. They fell short. It is what it is. Now, Orlando was able to win yesterday, but Wagner's now injured. So you're missing Franz, you're missing Paolo, and now you got to deal with Giannis, Lillard, and Middleton. I think it's a pretty favorable draw for Milwaukee. And Milwaukee, just to actually look at the price. Do we have a spread yet on that game for tomorrow?
I see 7.5.
Yeah.
Let me double check.
So I see 8 on DraftKings since I pulled it up. So assuming that the Bucks get by, they were there last year, ended up losing, but the point is they have some experience with the cup before. I'll go with Milwaukee. I think Orlando's a team you actually want to face right now, especially when you're not playing in Orlando. The Magic are undefeated at home, but they're a great home team. It is what it is, but on the road, they can be had, and I think it's a good spot for Milwaukee, who's played better lately. Did lose to Atlanta, did end up losing to the Celtics. No shame in that, though. On the road, it was a close game. In Milwaukee, though, for the quarterfinals, I think they'll advance, so I do like their chances. The Knicks and Hawks matchup, I think the Knicks really should not be the favorite. The Hawks have been good. It's not like the Knicks have this easy cakewalk in the first game. Now, I am aware that, of course, they are favored by about the same amount that the Bucks are favored by, but the Knicks are also playing on Monday, and then they're playing again on Wednesday, so we'll see how the game goes tonight, but Cat's been a bit banged up, which can be an issue maybe. We'll see what happens, but Atlanta's been dangerous. I don't think that the Knicks are guaranteed to beat the Hawks. They probably should. The Hawks have been one of the hottest teams in the league lately.
Yeah.
So I think the Knicks are mispriced. I think they should be one of the favorites, but based on the overall draw, they should not be the favorite of the entire field. Now, I think that the Eastern Conference you should be looking at for potential favorites because the Western Conference is an absolute crapshoot. If you pick the right team, you have a good chance because they do think that the West is better than the East. So for the actual Western Conference, the Rockets never beat the Warriors. No. I don't know what it is. They've lost, 15 straight?
I think it's like 15, 16 straight. Let me see if I can find it.
So that's a mess. And they got Dallas and Oklahoma City. So no offense to Golden State and Houston. I think whoever wins that OKC-Dallas game would be my pick to come out of the West. I think if I had to go for value, I'd probably go Dallas at 11-1. For value. Like, I think 11-1 is a good deal, considering the fact that Dallas has played better basketball lately. Lucas had some triple-doubles. I know that the schedule is difficult because they face off against of course, the Thunder in the first matchup in the quarters, but if you want to go for teams that are starting to play good basketball that might be a bit mispriced in a positive way for you as a bettor, I don't know if they've adjusted to Dallas properly, because I think that Dallas has actually been really good, and it feels like they haven't fully been accustomed to it. I'll put it that way. I feel like they could do a better job. Dallas right now, look at the actual lines here. Dallas is 9-1. It's a great price at 9-1. I think Atlanta 25-1 is kind of a joke too, if you want to go for teams that are playing good basketball. But those are my flyers. I'd go Dallas and I'd go with Atlanta as my long shot flyers. My short price will be the Bucks at around 360. If it doesn't work out, I'm taking some shots. It's mostly based on draw and going with some, in my opinion, long shots that are a bit mispriced, about too large of a price. I mean, who do you go with? Because I think that the argument for the Knicks and the argument for the Thunder are pretty standard. Thunder are the best team in the entire tournament right now because the Cavs and the Celtics lost, so they're the best team here. And the Knicks have been good, but it's a tough schedule facing off against the Hawks in the first matchup. So, yeah, give me the Bucks, and I'll take a couple long shots with the Mavericks, who are playing good basketball, and at Atlanta, who I think is just playing too good right now to be 25-1. So that's my three choices.
Yes, I think for the Knicks, what you mentioned, that the Hawks will have the rest advantage if you want to, put that into the handicap here going up against the Knicks, because like you mentioned, they play obviously on Monday night, and then they have to go back home and play Atlanta in that game there. So I know Atlanta played
Jalen Johnson's healthy, of course, because his shoulder's messed up. But we saw at Indiana, I know it was last year, Indiana gave the Knicks some problems with the amount of pace they played with. And I think Atlanta is going to try to do the same thing. So if that turns into a track meet and Atlanta has another 15 assist game from Trae Young, they can pull this off. But 25-1, assuming Jalen's healthy, does feel a bit large.
Yeah, so I like your angle about the Bucks. I think they should head to Vegas, beating
That's half the
Magic
battle
without
at
their
this point.
top two. Yeah. Um, so the Rockets have lost 15 straight to the Golden State Warriors, 16 of the last 17.
I thought they were going to win the game when Curry was out, and they
I thought so
showed
too.
the game
Yeah,
offensively.
I think
But
they were in a back-to-back situation in that game, if I'm not mistaken, because I know they play the Kings a night, or they're on the second night of a back-to-back against the Kings. I think they had 3 games. That was a third game in 4 nights for the Rockets, I believe. But I think Warriors get it done against the Rockets there, and then it comes down to, I think it's Thunder and Warriors in the West, and then I'll go Hawks and Bucks from the East.
are you picking the Hawks to upset the Knicks?
Yeah, I think so. Like you mentioned, right? They've been one of the best teams right now in the NBA over the past couple weeks here. And I know, like we mentioned, that some of the injuries with Jalen Johnson that obviously didn't play on Sunday. Maybe they're just resting guys for this game. Who knows? But I think the Knicks right now, with the injury status of Karl Anthony Towns, they've been good at home, but I think the Hawks can go in there and pull off the upset here. Trae Young has been playing really, really good basketball for the Atlanta Hawks. The surrounding pieces, the depth pieces have stepped up as well. And of course, if Jalen Johnson doesn't play, that'll obviously change my mind there, just because we've started to see him flourish. From last season, he was, we saw strides that he was going to make in this game, and so I think it's translated into the season. So yeah, I like your angle about the Bucks if we're talking about chalk picks, and then I would go. The Warriors are intriguing because the only thing that's setting me back from picking them is that Kerr at this juncture of the season is still tinkering with the lineups.
They also have been good lately.
Yeah, like their defense at the beginning of the season was, outstanding, and that's fallen off as well. It's just too much inconsistencies for this Warriors team. And it just makes me nervous about the part about how Kerr's still messing with the lines. But I do think they will beat the Rockets. At least, you get to Vegas, you have the chance there. So Bucks would be the look. Warriors at the longest shot at plus 850, and then the Hawks at 25-1. I've just picked 3 teams out of the 8 there, but
That's what I did.
yeah, so those are the looks that I would have.
Like if the Thunder win, like sure, yeah, of course, they're top 3 team in the league, but I don't see much value on that, having Dallas in the first round, etc. I just think the price is off. I feel like Dallas at 9-1. Yes, I know Oklahoma City is dangerous, but Houston really is 550. Golden State at 850 does feel a bit off too, but they have not been great lately. But it is pretty nuts that the Rockets, who've lost 15 straight games to this team, have a shorter price to win the entire NBA Cup when they're facing off against that same team in the quarters.
Yeah.
The pricing just feels off to me on that.
Yeah, I couldn't pick the Rockets.
There's no value on the Rockets at 550.
Yeah. MVP market, I think that's maybe a pivot that if you don't want to bet on these teams to win at shorter prices, maybe you go out there and pick an MVP here. So, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong now. The MVP would be for the entirety of the tournament, right? Not just...
Yes,
from
because
this
LeBron won it last year, even though AD had like 40 points in the title game. So LeBron got it. All
right. So I'll just read off the chalk here. It's 3 guys that have odds of plus 550 or less. That's Jalen Brunson at 4-1, SGA at plus 425, and then Giannis at plus 550. Then it goes from 10-1 and greater, with Curry at 10-1, Luka 12-1, Şengün 14-1, Dame 17-1, Fred VanVleet 20-1, and it goes beyond from there. Trae Young is 40-1 if you are interested in that price. But anybody, at least in the MVP market, that intrigues you?
So I feel like if the Bucks win, it has to go to Giannis. But honestly, at 360, do I really want to gamble for an extra $1.40? Not really. Like I don't see enough value on that for Milwaukee. You got to make an argument for Dame that could be maybe worth something if you think he has a monster 40-point game in Vegas. We'll see what happens. But I'll stick with the teams that I mentioned before. It's going to be, what's Luka's odds again?
12-1.
I'm interested in that because Dallas is 9-1. So I'd rather take Luka MVP on that one, because if they win the entire thing, I guarantee you Luka's winning MVP.
Yeah.
So I'll take Luka 12-1. I'll skip on Giannis. What do you say Trae Young was again?
40-1.
Atlanta's at 25. Yeah, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
Thought about maybe going Jalen Johnson, but he's been banged up, so I think it would go to Trae anyway. So yeah, I'll go with Trae. I'll go with Luka, and that's it. Dame, what was the price on Dame?
17-1 on DraftKings.
I'm trying to think if I'd actually see a world where they'd give it to him over Giannis.
I think it would be Giannis.
I think it'd probably be Giannis, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you'd need a 40-plus piece, and yeah, I probably wouldn't gamble on that. So, yeah, I think I'm just going to go with 2 MVP options. In fact, I will swap out my Mavericks title pick for Luka to win
Luka, 12-1.
Yeah, and same with Atlanta. Because if they're going to win, it's going to be Trae who's going to have like 20 and 15 in the title game.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like if you like the Warriors, then you just take Curry 10-1 to win MVP.
The in-season tournament's basically been set up to give star players extra flowers during the season, and we saw it with LeBron last year. Even though AD was clearly the best player in that entire final game against Indiana, it didn't matter because it was a good narrative builder, and it made the Lakers look. I'll use the word relevant because damn, they've been in hindsight underwhelming for years, but they had a moment of glory, and the NBA capitalized on it. So if you see a team end up winning that has a star player, it's going to the star player, unless they shoot a god-awful percentage in the entire tournament.
Yeah, I think so. If you like the Warriors, they're plus 850, I said, to win it.
Yeah.
I would just at that point would take Curry 10-1 to win the MVP of the tournament.
I got nobody else who I could see winning the MVP.
Right. Maybe Kuminga, but he's 600-1. Trae was the first one that caught my eye because if I like the Hawks, Trae's going to get he's at 40-1. So the 2 guys that I circled. Cat at 22-1. I know I was
actually going to ask you about that because Brunson being that big of a favorite compared to like Cat, who's had a monster year or 2. Yeah, Cat could be intriguing.
Yeah, and I think Cat would. I know that he's going to walk into those double-digit rebounds. I know that he can score the points as well. If he's able to consistently knock down the 3-point shot, which he has throughout the season, I think that if you like the Knicks, I would rather go 22-1 on Cat than that chalk price of it's 10 cents difference, if I'm not mistaken, or $1, I think, from the Knicks to win it to Jalen Brunson to being the MVP. So I think it would honestly be between those 2 guys. So if I like the Knicks, it would be Cat at 22-1 to win the MVP there. So crossed off Şengün in my list immediately. Again, if it is Thunder, we know it's going to be SGA, the chalky price there as well. So usually it is going to be the star players. So Curry 10-1. I would add Cat to the portfolio in case the Hawks don't beat them at 22-1. And then in case the Hawks do beat them, Trae Young at 40-1. I think that's a great price there. But that just kind of tells you the market just thinks that they're not going to win the 2024 in-season NBA Cup / whatever you want to call it tournament. Anything else, Scott, for the NBA Cup in general?
No, even though I was once again picking the Hawks to be a Cinderella story, I do like the Cat price a lot. I'll add that to the MVP list as well. Yep. I just don't see much of value on Brunson for me because Cat can put up numbers that are, at least for one given game or a couple given games, I'd say superior to Brunson's, because if Brunson goes for like 20-something points on an inefficient game and Cat gives you 25 and 15, then he's got a realistic chance of actually surpassing Brunson for chances to win. So I think that Cat, once again, is a good price there. I like that too. But for the most part, once again, have some fun with it. It's the NBA Cup. Don't go too crazy on it. But I am looking forward to the games. Should be fun.
Yeah, so just the schedule here for the NBA Cup. They do start tomorrow for the quarterfinals, one from each conference. So tomorrow you'll have Magic and Bucks, Mavs and Thunder. And then Wednesday, it will be Hawks and Knicks, Warriors and the Rockets. And then whichever 4 teams win, the semifinals will then be on Saturday in Vegas. It'll be on national TV, TNT and ABC. And then the finals will be next Tuesday on the 17th there. So that's the schedule right now for the NBA Cup, at least. And then, of course, we'll have games in between that for the teams that are obviously not in the knockout stage here of the NBA Cup. So should be a lot of fun for the NBA Cup this season. All right. lock and dog picks times, I guess. And I didn't even mention that. We'll do our lock and dog picks, and then we'll put together our underdog fantasy entry for the one game here on the NBA schedule. Scott, you want to lead us off? If you want to go like lock and then prop, or if you have a dog price you want to give out, we're obviously with only one game, it'll be hard for us to, pick something, but I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if I could find any potential value for any futures on the NBA Cup. They have teams to reach the final. I mean, Milwaukee's at plus 145, which I don't really like because they'll be dogs against the Knicks if they play. They'll be favored against Atlanta, but I think the Knicks would be favored in that game, so I don't really see much value on that either. Yeah, I don't really have much for the actual NBA Cup futures for any best bets at the end. So I think for this one, I'm going to go back to what I said before. I'm going to go with Brunson. I'll go with the Brunson PA tonight. I think he's got a solid matchup. I think that you're looking at a guy who can give you a bunch of assists. He can give you a bunch of points. Kind of pick whatever you want, and I don't think that Toronto can actually guard him. But for the PA in this one, once again, a solid overall number of 33.5. I think it's a good option. He has been solid lately. Gone over this number in four of the last 7. He had 31 and 10 in his last game against Detroit. So the assists have been there. I'm trying to think, though, are we doing a dog? You want to just do a best bet?
Yeah, best bet for me would be.
Well, I'm saying, do you want to do best bet? Or do you want to do a lock and dog?
We could do just best bet since there's only one game, and then we'll save like our player prop stuff for the underdog fantasy entry if you want to, tell us. So we'll just do a best bet then.
Okay. I'm trying to wonder if I want to actually go for the points or I want to go for the assists on Brunson because I can potentially get like, you know what? No, I'll just do the PA. Screw it. Yeah, just give me the PA for Brunson. I was gonna do double as my dog. I think that's a good price. Double for Brunson is available right now at about plus 260, which I think is a pretty good deal. But I think he's got a good matchup here against Toronto. Toronto gives up a bunch of points to point guards. The overall assists they give up a ton to as well. I actually have been good against assists for point guards, but ton of points. I think Brunson could be in line for a monster game here. Had 38 in the game against them last year. I think Brunson dominates. Give me Brunson PA.
All right.
That was a 33.5, by the way.
There you go. All right. For my lock, it's either going to be Barnes, PR, or just the over in the game here tonight because I do think there's going to be points being put up. I'll take the over in the game, 232. We talked about the home and road splits, 8-4 for the Knicks on the road this season towards the over. The Raptors 8-4 in their home games towards the over. I think we'll see pace in this game. And I mentioned that the defense for the Knicks falls off on the road this season. So I think that will catch up here tonight. So I'll take the over 232 as my best bet for the Knicks and the Raptors game. All right, so let's put together our underdog fantasy entry here for 10. Again, underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code NBA SGPN, 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000 for first-time account users. So, but make sure you guys use that promo code NBA SGPN, and you'll get that deposit bonus. And I also have all these great profit boost discount tokens, things like that over on Underdog Fantasy. They're doing as much as they can to make it easier for you to win over at Underdog Fantasy. All right, Scott. So you mentioned Jalen Brunson, PA. You want to throw that into the entry here for tonight? It's at 33.5.
I think I'll switch it up on this one. I'll do points on this
points. One. All right. So let's go 25.5 is a number for Brunson. Scotty Barnes, I like here tonight. I think I will go points and rebounds is at 28.5 for him. So I'll take that on the higher for Scotty Barnes. Or should we go assists? Because I feel like he's also been getting the assist as well. Let's see. Scotty Barnes. Yeah, I think assist may be the play here. With Jakob Poeltl back, I think he may be getting the rebounds. So we'll go assist for him. So, All right, so higher on 20.5 points and assists for Scotty Barnes. And then let's throw one more in here. Anybody else that you like?
Well, we're not sure if Cat's going to play or not, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Trying to think of what I want to go with here. Let me just quickly look up a player that I could be intrigued by, at least for volume. I just want to see what Grady Dick's 3-pointers are for this game.
Let me see. I saw 2.5. The higher is spicy at 1.11.
Yeah, the Knicks give up a ton of threes. In
Okay.
fact, they're actually giving up like the 6th most threes in the entire league. So yeah, I'll go with Dick over or Dick higher on his threes. I think it's a good matchup.
All right. So for our entry here for tonight, we'll go with Jalen Brunson, higher 25.5 points. Scotty Barnes, higher 28.5 points and assists. And then we'll go Grady Dick, 3-pointers made, higher 2.5. That comes out to a 6.66x entry. So every $10 that you do put in, you'll get $66.60 back if all three in those entries do in fact get us to the window there. So again, come join us at underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you use our promo code NBASGPN. And that, my friends, will do it here for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast. Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Not really. Looking forward to the game tonight and the games for the Cup over the next week. Besides that, looking forward to, once again, the rest of the NBA Cup and the rest of the season. So that should be fun. Find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Tennis should be coming back in about a week. So if you do want some tennis gambling podcast action, we are going to be resuming that next week. But besides that, nope, just keeping busy and trying not to be too depressed about Soto leaving.
We'll fire up
probably a baseball show coming up.
Yeah, we'll do a baseball show sometime this week, as we'll get more. Obviously, winter meetings are starting this week, so we'll see if we'll get more signings done. But we'll touch on some MLB stuff this week as well. So look out for us on that podcast as well. Make sure you guys follow Scott over on Twitter. That's at Reichel Radio. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. More importantly, if you haven't already subscribed to the NBA Gambling Podcast YouTube channel, please go ahead and do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and then smash that like button here on the live stream if you are watching live. And if you're listening on the audio version, do us a favor after you're done listening, leave us a rating and review, whether it's on Apple or Spotify. We truly, truly, dearly appreciate if you guys could do that for us. All right, we'll be back tomorrow with, I believe it will be Terrell and Lonte to go over the 2 games for the NBA Cup quarterfinals. So look out for them at the same place, same time. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and always remember to let it ride.
Basketball, give me.